Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to Adobe Photoshop, and we're using CC 2017. Most of the machines around the building have 2018 installed on them, but visually there won't be really any difference. Everything I'm doing here applies to both, and you won't notice a difference from one system to another. So I'm going to open up CC 2017 here. I'm using a Mac, so I access it via this dock. You more than likely, some of you are using Windows PCs. There should be shortcuts on the desktop, or you'll find it in the start menu pretty easily if you just do a search. So Photoshop usually takes a little bit of time to open, but I guess what I want you to understand about Photoshop in this video is just a little bit about the layout, a little bit about how Photoshop manages files and how it works with them, and just some of the more important elements to keep in mind. So this layout here, I think, is left over from whoever was using it last. I wonder if I could change that workspace into, I have to reset essentials, see what it does. Yeah, slight changes. Okay, so you've got a big workspace here, but we don't have anything open, so that's empty at the moment. You have a toolbox along the side here. You can see at the moment the magnifying glass is selected. So the options for the magnifying glass are up here. If I was to choose the paintbrush, the options up here change for the paintbrush so that you might get different brush shapes. Oh, let's ignore that. Different brush shapes there. Like some of them look like grass, some of them look like leaves, some of them look like chalk smudges, some of them are just hard circles and soft edge circles. We'll come to all that later. But basically what I want you to appreciate is whatever tool you have selected, whether it's the text tool, the options appear up here. If it's the spot healing brush, there it is. If it's the eraser, there it is. So whatever tool you've selected, a lot of the options appear up here. Now, a lot of these tools over here have a little white tag in the bottom right corner. So that means if you hold the button down, it opens up a drawer and there are more tools inside. So say there's the eraser tool, a background eraser, a magic eraser, all types. But what it means is that, say for instance, if I was using this and I was using the paint bucket and I finish up and I go, whoever opens this up next goes, hang on, where's the gradient tool? It's usually here, but you need to go in and find it, you know. So I always say to students that half the battle of using Photoshop is remembering where everything is. So you've got all these drop down menus as well. You've got your options for the different tools. You've got all these floating palettes over here. But after a while, like anything, like driving, you have to keep an eye on all kinds of things and remember where various parts are. It'll all start to come together. Don't expect it to happen straight away, but we'll get results for you pretty quickly. But don't be intimidated by this. You're on day one of learning it. It'll come to you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make this a little simpler. These have a lot of palettes here that I'm not going to use. So I'm going to grab libraries here. I'm going to drag it out and hit the X. Color and swatches I'll keep. I think that's my history. I'm going to hold on to that for now because I'm going to show you that later. Channels I'm not going to use for now. Pass I'm not going to use. Now if I want to do, I could say window, workspace, new workspace, let's say for argument's sake. And I'm going to call this well. Okay, and I'm going to save that. So now if I come back to this computer and somebody's changed it, I can just go in and get my workspace back. And there it is. So probably won't work, but on your personal copy at home, these machines tend to reset themselves when they've been shut down for a day. But really, layers is the most important. So I'm going to stretch that up a bit so it has a bit of space. I'm going to get rid of properties. I'm going to get rid of adjustments. Adjustments are useful, but we'll come to that. So layers, color, and swatches. These are the palettes I'm going to use for the moment. So I'm not going to go much further with this. I'm going to show you just a little bit about layers and how they work. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say File and New. And it brings up my new document dialog box. So there's a default Photoshop size, which is about, what's that? I don't know, 5 by 4, something like that, inches. Let me check that, inches. 6.3 by 4.7. So, but also you can go to find a bunch of standard Photoshop size or photography sizes, a bunch of print sizes like A4, A5, A6, A3, art and illustration, basic poster sizes, web stuff, mobile phone stuff, and iPhone 6 Plus. Like if you're designing something for that, there's the exact size of it. Apple Watch, seems to be a lot of Apple products, not so much So we're in for anything else other than Apple products here. But yeah, but we're going for print. So for our argument's sake today, we're just going to use A4. And I'm going to choose tall rather than wide, and resolution. I'll come to that in a few minutes, but I'm going to keep the resolution high. If you always did stuff at a minimum of 300 pixels per inch, you couldn't really go wrong. And we'll go to that in a minute. So I'm going to say create, and there's my document. See, and over here on the right hand side in the layers palette, where there was nothing before, there's now a layer called background, and it's just a white page. So if I choose my paintbrush and I choose a color, let's go with a nice strong blue. Now you can see the cursor on the screen is a tiny dot. That's they call it brush. If I go up here, remember I was saying with every tool you have selected, the options are up here. I could go in here, I could change the size of that brush, and you can see it's bigger now. But on your keyboard, to the right of the letter P, you'll see two brackets. The left-hand bracket makes it smaller, the right-hand one makes it bigger. So if I draw with it, see it's just over here in my layers palette, you can see it's drawing it directly onto the background. I don't want to do that. I'm going to say undo the brush, and I'm going to say layer, new layer. And I'm going to call this blue square. Good habit to get into, labeling your layers. So now I have two, background and blue square. I'm going to make these little icons a bit bigger. In the layers palette over here, there's a button, and in there is panel options. I'm going to choose these large, what are called thumbnails, and you can see over here they've gotten a bit bigger. It's easier to look at. So white square, and this, I don't know if you can make that out, but that's a real checkerboard look to it, and checkerboard means transparent. So when I paint on this now, okay, you can see my blue square is on this transparent background. If I go to my move tool over here in the top left and grab this, I can move this. Whereas before, when I drew it on this background, it would be like drawing it directly onto the paper. This is like drawing it onto a sheet of clear plastic, and then I can move that around and position it wherever I want. So let's make another layer. Layer, new, and layer. And I'm going to call this red circle. It's all very simplistic, but it's just making a point about layers. So I'm going to take my paintbrush again, which is here. See, if I hold the mouse over a tool for long enough, it'll tell me what it is. I'm going to change this color, and I'm going to go red. And this is where so this brings me to a different part of the color spectrum, and this brings me to the particular shade I want to use. So this time I'm going to draw a red circle. I know, pretty impressive. Okay, so over here you can see red circle, blue square. Get back to my move tool over here, and now I can grab this separate. So the way I keep an element separate from each other. If I go over here to my layers and grab the blue square layer and move it up, now the blue square is in front of the red circle. And guess what? So you can manipulate the layers, whichever one's closest to you. That's on a very basic level. That's what layers are. So and another way to make a new layer, in the bottom right corner of the layers palette down here, beside the bin, there's a little thing that create a new layer. And then I can go in here, double click, and type in green, you guessed it, triangle. This is going to challenge my artistic abilities now. So paintbrush, color. Let's go a nice leprechaun green here. Oh, you didn't think I could do it, did you? So there's my green triangle, and again, I can get the move tool up here, move it around, get the red circle, move it around, get the blue square, move it around. So because they're all on separate layers, I've got control of them. I can make copies of them. So if I say layer, duplicate layer, it's going to duplicate the blue square copy. And now I've got another one, and I can move it down there. So you've got control over all of these. And then you can also just throw them away if you don't want them anymore. So delete layer green triangle. I'm going to say don't show again, and say yes. Red circle, delete that, delete that, delete that, and you're back. So that's on a very basic level, that's how layers work. Okay, if you have any questions or anything like that about this, email me at wmcdermott, that's with 2 T's, at cdcfe.com. If you have any requests for any tutorial videos, if I can make them, I will. If I can't, I'll let you know, or I might direct it to someone who might know. So thank you for watching right to the end. Take it easy, bye.